Okay, come on. Episode 53. Holy shit, people. That means we've officially been doing this for more than a year. I feel older. At least a year older. Maybe a bit more. Maybe an extra week. But damn, people. This is great. We have a great show tonight. My face is gonna go fuzzy for a minute because I have to do everything on my phone because computer is not having my shit today, and that's fine. I don't put up with this shit, and it doesn't put up with mine. Hopefully, you guys can still hear me though, and I'm going to make this thing happen. Yeah, it's public now. I should be able to see everything from you guys, and let's see if you've got comments. Yeah, there we go. Brian Manel's in the house. Good to see you, buddy. You don't have to edit here, homie. I won't call you out on your shit. I promise. Terrific. Brian and anybody else who's here, we're going to have a terrific show tonight. We've got Clay Adams, who's done all sorts of amazing work. He's with Fried Comics. He's got his Nightmare Theater, which did really well at a convention he wasn't even at. We got to talk about that a little bit ahead of time. That was hilarious. He also has Red Xmas, which is coming to stores really soon. Of course, I don't know if you've looked around. I mean, for me, it's no different because I'm in Texas, but it's snowing. It's Christmas time. This is a perfect time to check out a book like that. So we're definitely going to talk about that. I would love for you guys to share, talk about it, all that kind of stuff. Let's get this going because I want Clay to have a really good time, and I want him to have a good time with us. So I think we're just about ready. Why don't we make this stuff happen? And we're going to have a really good night tonight. So let's put up that and let's start this motherfucker up.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck. Because I care.
What's going on, Clay?
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
I'm ready to party. I'm ready to have a good time.
Perfect. You know what? This is that show. I call it Shop Talk because I love the idea of basically us sitting around after. I always imagine it's after a show, we're having a drink, and we're just talking about creating and what we do, and your books will come up and all that kind of stuff. So awesome. That's what's going to happen.
I got my whiskey right here. I'm ready to go.
I'm doing water, but maybe I'll pour some whiskey in later on or some vodka or something.
I'm double fisting the vodka.
Dude, It's going to be a night.
It is. This is water. This is water, by the way. I don't drink that much vodka.
That white whiskey is happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ready to have a good time? Wrong show. Oh, oops. Steph, fuck you. I love you.
Uh-oh.
Oh, dude, you got to have your people who are going to come in and have fun. And Steph's my dude. He loves to fuck around and give us a hard time. That's the best part.
Awesome.
So, Clay,
yes, sir.
Dude, you've done so much shit. Why don't we talk about you for a minute? Can you please give people a quick kind of bio about who you are and what you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Clay Adams. I'm a writer. I'm an actor. And I'm mostly known as a voice actor. I did some voices on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fast Forward and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. Wow. And I still sort of get asked a lot of questions about that to this day, even though I did those years and years and years ago. Mostly doing comics now. I started a company with my friend Alexander O'Philippe called Fried Comics. And the idea behind that was that we wanted our comics to have no nutritional value. We wanted them to be like fried food, that they just went down smooth. They felt good, but maybe weren't exactly good for you. And so we did. We've done some comics there with Fried, titles like Deadskins and Red Xmas, which just got picked up by Scout Comics. And so the trade of that is going to be coming out very, very shortly. Oh. I'm also co-editor of the Nightmare Theater anthology, which we just wrapped up our second volume on Kickstarter to the tune of $28,000. And volume 1 was just named the number 1 out of their top 10 indie comics you could buy at LA Comic-Con the other week. So Really happy with the way that's gone. And then I just wrapped up yet another Kickstarter campaign last week for Blazing Blade of Frankenstein #1. Little sword and sorcery meets gothic horror.
So it's just kind of another day in the life of Clay. Just
making
chill.
Comics, man. That's what I do. Yeah.
Just fucking banging it out. Oh, that's great. Shawnee is in the house. What's going on, girl? It's so good to see you.
Hey,
Braden.
Shawnee.
Woo! Oh, do you know? Oh, great. She's great people, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Braden
She's been
Cox
San Diego
is in the
Comic Con,
house.
bud.
Oh, dude. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one I haven't done yet, and I really want to do that. I got to knock Emerald City off, so that was a big one. But yeah, that's going to be
a huge one.
Right? Yeah, it's the huge one. Chuck acts as an editor. I try. The headphones be bumping. Thank you. I do try. It goes down smooth until Frida enters the picture.
Nice. Nice.
He said Steph thinks that you need some sexy variant covers.
Well, you know what, Steph? We should chat. Absolutely. I hear those things sell.
Holy shit. It's stupid how much they sell. It's annoying. I love this guy, but fuck, his stuff sells. I want to fire him so bad. And then I'm like, oh, shit. People actually bought that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
We'll chat, Steph. We'll chat.
Right? Don't listen to Chuck. He may be laughing at you, but we know you have good Kickstarter books. He's killer Kickstarter books.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Clay, I've missed running into you at con and hanging out.
Right back at you. I'm ready. Next year, let's do it. What is next year? I don't even know. 2022. Let's do it. Yeah. I've lost all sense of time sitting here in my house.
I so much feel the same. Weston dropped by. I just dropped by to give some love before I go cook dinner. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate you popping in. And as always, everybody, I'm going to throw this up. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask. We would love to bring your stuff up and talk about it. And again, like always, we talk about process. We talk about Clay and his books and everything. So feel free to hit us however you want. A Steph cover for Fried Comics, just crazy enough to work.
All right.
Does Deadskins need a sexy cover?
I don't know about that one, but we can definitely work something in for another.
Right?
Let me put my thinking cap on. Yeah, PBOW maybe. I don't know. Okay, can you draw sexy pregnant ladies? We'll see about that.
Oh wow, I'm interested in seeing how he does that. That's exciting for me. Steph says, I think we can all agree Shawnee is the best thing about comics.
That is true.
I can jump on that boat. Yeah, absolutely. So you got to talk about yourself. What about, and this is the thing that I always love to ask people, especially since we're talking about processes a lot. What was your origin story when it comes to being a comic fan and then being a comic creator?
Yeah, so I got into comics through like TV and cartoons. So, like I was the kid that was addicted to the Incredible Hulk TV show and the Linda Carter Wonder Woman and, all that great stuff. And then, of course, the Christopher Reeve Superman movie. I just loved all that stuff, playing with the toys, watching. And then it was like watching Super Friends and then the Superpowers show. And when Superpowers came out, I don't know if you remember, but they had those toys, that toy line that went with it. Do you have one there? Oh, I thought you were reaching, back and you're like, dude, I carry around my superpower. That actually happened to me on a podcast. So that's why
I got like a Mego ready to go.
Yes. So inside the packaging of the Superpowers stuff, they had these little mini comics. And they were numbered. So like you'd have to collect them all. They were really tiny. They were like postcard size. I don't even know who did them, but they were awesome. And so I started reading those and loving them. And then one day I just went into a pharmacy with my mom and I saw I was maybe like 8 or 9 years old and I saw a comic book rack and it had like big versions of these teeny tiny comic books that I'd been reading. And I was like, oh my God, they make these things. And I picked it up. And I think the first comic I picked up was the second part of Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, the Alan Moore Superman story.
Oh, wow.
And that ruined me. Like it was so good. that I was like, okay, I'm all in on this. And then it was like, shortly after that, like that's just a great time to be into comics because then, like I think Crisis was still on the stands, and then the John Byrne Superman came out, and then Batman Year One. So I was definitely a big DC guy. So that got me into reading, and I just never stopped. Like I took some breaks, but then Vertigo came out and got me back after I thought I had kind of outgrown the comic books, and then and then Image and all of that great stuff. And so I always wanted to create. I used to write and draw my own comics at home. I was that kid that like didn't want to go out and play baseball with everybody. I just wanted to stay in and make comics. And so at a certain point it just became like, all right, let's do this for real. Let's make a comic book.
Dude, that's pretty great. And actually Steph says it really well here. He says, I love that you could find comics in random stores.
Yeah, man, I miss that. I miss that so bad.
Going to the pharmacy with your mom, and then suddenly it's like, dude, you got
Yeah.
Marvel here? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I would buy, so that pharmacy was great because they would leave comics on the rack for a long time, because so you could like dig through and find some back issues in that little rack, and then but even like the grocery store had them. Like I'd go to the local Winn-Dixie, and they'd have comics on the shelves. In fact, I think that's where I first saw the Man of Steel miniseries at the grocery store, and then the 7-Eleven. And just everywhere you went there were comics, and Walden Books, you'd go to the mall, they'd have a rack. And so I really I'm with you, Steph. I think I wish they were everywhere. I wish they were impulse buys again.
Top Cow had the best covers. Yeah, I feel you there. And he says pregnant girls are sexy. So
good. Okay, great.
So yeah, actually you could have something. I'm excited to see that one day, because honestly I can be like, ooh, I was there, ground zero of whatever this travesty is. I'm there.
All right, Chuck, making a marriage. I like it.
I'm a big fan. I love it. So we have that. We have the manifest destiny of you found these weird little picture books,
right? And
you've loved them and you fall in love with. Now, how does that change into? I mean, obviously as a kid you were making them and stuff, but we all grow out of that. Yeah. How'd you get back into it again? How was it like, I gotta actually make this a business and do something?
So I went to college for writing at first. I switched to an acting major, and I got a double major in the writing, but my first year I was solely a writing major. And they started something that year called the Stan Hatton Project. This was at NYU. It was the Stan Hatton Project, and a couple of Marvel editors would come down and they would teach you how to write comics.
Oh, wow.
And I think I didn't know about it the first year or something. But the very first year there was a success story. One guy came out of the Stan Hatton Project and he started making comics for Marvel. And he's a guy named Joe Kelly. Right?
Oh shit, yeah.
And I knew Joe as the AV guy for the dramatic writing program at NYU. So he was up there. He was the guy on the 7th floor of Tisch School of the Arts that kids, I'm going to date myself, but back in the day before, you really had the internet like we have it, if you wanted to watch a movie and you were in a classroom setting, you had to have some tech guy wheel in a cart that had a big boxy TV and a VCR, right? And he'd have to hook all that up and make sure the VCR was hooked up properly to the TV, and then put the tape in and press play and make sure it was all queued up. That was Joe Kelly. That was his job.
Which is so funny, because for me, Joe Kelly is the guy who in the mid-90s took over the X-Men and whatnot, which is
right.
Wow.
Right. So he got his first Marvel gig out of the Stan Hatton Project. So I thought, well, so I should sign up for this thing, right? And then I'll take a few classes, and then I'll be Joe Kelly. I'll be writing at Marvel, and it'll all be fantastic. Right. So I went, and I actually, so Alexandro Philippe, who's my co-creator at Fried Comics, he was also in the Stan Hatton Project with me, and I think we went to maybe like 2 classes. Like we quit pretty early. because it was like, it was like late at night. It wasn't for credit, and it was a lot of work. Like I remember I got reamed out because the whole thing was like you were supposed to read all these Silver Surfer comics and then like come up with a pitch for Silver Surfer for like a year's worth of Silver Surfer stories. That was like the big overarching project. But then we were having to like dialogue over somebody else's plot. So it was like I don't know who did the plot, but we got this book that I think was ultimately dialogued by J.M. DeMatteis. And we had to dialogue it. And I got reamed out because I didn't do balloon placements. And the guy was telling me like, well, you have to put your balloons on the art. Like, you got to print up the art. I went through all this trouble of printing up this art for you, and you wrote all this dialogue, but you didn't tell me where the balloons go. Which I kind of like. I wish, now that I'm doing a lot of lettering too, I wish that writers would do that. Like tell me where do you think this huge balloon is going to go in this teeny tiny panel? I would love for you to tell me that. And so anyway, that was interesting, but I got reamed out for that. And then there was another sequence where I thought, this art is so good. I'm not going to write any dialogue. Like, I think I just want to let the art speak for itself. And I remember the editor, he was like, he said, I'm going to call your bluff. And I was like, well, I'm not bluffing. It's not that I didn't do the work. Like, I just literally thought the art told the story. And he was like, no, you have to have dialogue here because you have to know what's going on in Silver Surfer's mind. And you have to know that he's looking at this picture of Alicia and all this stuff. And I was like, all right. I took this dressing down from this editor. And then several months later, when the book was released, I went to the comic shop and picked it up, and I flipped through it, and J.M. DeMatteis had dialogued it, and he left those exact same panels blank. There was no dialogue. There was nothing. I'm not going to claim that I had any influence on how this thing turned out, but I thought it was pretty hilarious that I got yelled at for that. And it's exactly what the professional writer that they paid to do did.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
And so I think between that and the fact that there was one guy who was clearly going to come out of that with a job, like the editors fell all over this guy. He could do no wrong. He pooped gold. And I thought, this guy, I can't compete with this guy. I think like maybe this class is just not for me. So I quit, and Brian K. Vaughan went on to be Brian K. Vaughan.
Holy shit! Wow! Wow! That's ridiculous. That's some. Oh, let me look. You dropped some names here. Like, holy fuck!
I did.
Wow! No, that's great though. That's. So you went to school with these guys too, just like they were fucking nobodies. Like, oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's ridiculous. We have a bunch of people who just showed up. Hey, girl, what's going on? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. And then my boy Doug is in town. Good to see you, homie. There were some questions though. Brian Manel asked if you could voice act a character in your stories, who would it be?
That's a great question. You know, I did. It's funny because I don't really like, I hear all these voices in my head, right? Like when I'm writing, I definitely hear it distinctly, but I don't really think so much about acting them. Although I did on the first issue of Deadskins we did as a stretch goal, I recorded a scene where I played both of the voices. So we did it like a radio play, but I was doing both of the voices and it was edited together. And so that was kind of fun because I was playing Shane, who was the lead character, and he's more of like the everyman, the straight man, the Jason Bateman, if you will. And then playing Cataract Jack, who's like this sort of crazy, drunk, blind Southern dude who was really kind of over the top. So I kind of got to play both extremes of that. So I don't know. I'd love to do like maybe a full production of that one day. That could be cool. That's a great question.
Right? So Brian, he goes on to then say also kind of the same question. When you started writing comics at a young age, was there a time when you also wished you could voice act one of them?
I think when I was younger, I didn't think so much about that as like a job, like thinking that that was a thing that people actually did. I mean, I started acting really young. I started acting when I was 8, was my first professional gig, but that really wasn't like where I was in Atlanta. The market was more like commercials and radio and industrial films for companies. So like I just wasn't in that mindset. Like I was thinking, well, I'm going to go be an actor, so I'm going to be like in movies and TV. And I didn't really like, I watched a ton of cartoons, but I didn't really think so much about actually being a voice of some of these characters. But man, yeah, it's a fun gig.
Right. It
Yeah.
sounds like it too.
I like it a lot
Um,
better than being on camera.
I feel you. Um, we're getting all the love for the AV carts, by the way. Everyone's excited about the AV room.
Yes.
Brian Manell is excited. You're like, yeah, and I totally get it. And just so Steph is aware, I was not in the AV club. I was in choir and in the Improv Club.
Ooh.
I also was an actor, and I loved it.
I like that your school had an improv club. That's pretty fancy.
Yeah, well, so yeah, it was
Especially
really
from
cool.
back in the day.
Right. So this was in the mid to late 90s. We had an improv team. This was as like the British what you can see on television or whatever the hell that show was.
Yeah. Whose line is it anyway?
Whose line
right?
is it anyways?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the British one was taking off and it was huge. And we were in Canada, so we got the BBC a lot. And so, yeah, man, we got to watch that and we were big into that. And our teacher was this guy who was big into theater and big into comedy. And so we had a lot of comedy classes and whatnot. And I took to that shit. I was raised on sitcoms. So I took to that stuff right away. Absolutely loved it. And what was great about our improv team is we were, the name of my school was Sutton District High School. So we called ourselves the Sutton High Improv Team, which they didn't like when we put shit on our shirts. They're like, oh, we're the Sutton High Improv Team. And they're like, yeah, you are. And we're like, we made the shirts and they're like, oh, no. You
Not
can't
okay.
wear those. And I was like, oh, we tried, guys. We really tried. But yeah, we got to go perform in clubs in Toronto and whatnot. And we actually got to go up against some pretty big people in the Second City and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun,
awesome.
man. Yeah, it was killer. I loved it. Low bar on Nerdville, better than drawing circles, motherfucker. Carrie Schiffman is in the house. What's up, girlfriend? John Westhoff, dude. We're getting all the cool people here. Chuck seems like the thespian type. I mean, maybe if I was a woman, I would totally be into other chicks. Yeah. Oh, thespian. Oh, okay, fair.
Very important 2 letters. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Big
I can
difference.
write, but I can't read. So yeah, let's get back to you a little bit more. First off, how amazing was it for you? I know I asked you off camera, but even now on, just so everyone can kind of hear, how amazing was it for you to find out that you had been named the #1 indie comic at a show you weren't even at?
It's pretty funny. I mean, it's an anthology, so it's Nightmare Theater. It's an anthology. We had 32 teams, and so so we had a lot of people that are selling this book at cons. And I guess it's a very, my co-editor is based in LA, and he was heavily recruiting from people that he just knew, I guess, from the LA con scene. So
Yeah.
anyway, there was a big concentration of people selling this book at LA Comic-Con. And so yeah, I woke up yesterday seeing people tweet that CBR had named this #1 on their top 10 indie comics you could buy at LA Comic-Con, and I wasn't there to see the site.
Right. But you still got to bask in the glory, which is pretty great, actually.
I'll take it. I'll take
Right?
glory.
I would take it too.
Yeah, I'm fine with glory. Bring it on.
It's comics. There's lots of glory to go around, and it doesn't show up often enough, so just take it.
I'll take it. I'll take it when it comes. Yeah.
Good for you. Now, speaking of glory, Scout Comics. Scout Comics has jumped onto Red Xmas,
Yeah.
and you made that book. That's like what now, like 2 or 3 years old?
Yeah. So the first issue we did back in like 2014, I think, and we put it on Kickstarter. And I knew nothing about Kickstarter, but we were like, oh my God, we're going to go on Kickstarter. We're going to make $1 billion. We're going to be famous comics makers, right? So we brought Red Xmas #1 to Kickstarter, and it struggled, man. Like which was crazy because we had been serializing PBOW and Deadskins on our website, and like we had kind of an audience for that. So we should have, with hindsight, we should have kickstarted one of those books. Instead, we brought a brand new property that nobody had heard of, nobody was invested in. And it really struggled. And so I, like, about halfway through the campaign, I was like, this thing is going to fail if I don't do something. So I started like frantically typing, like, how do I run a comics Kickstarter? And I came up with this guy's blog, Tyler James at Comics Tribe. And he literally answered every question I had on this blog. I did everything he suggested, and we funded. And it was an awesome feeling. But my partner in crime, Alexander, didn't want to go back to that well anytime soon. And then we had a few things happen that kind of kept us out of comics making for a few years. But I kind of like, I got bitten by the Kickstarter bug a little bit. I followed Tyler, got on his mailing list. And when he opened up the comics launch course, I was in the pilot program of that. And yes, sir. Yes, he is.
Yeah, he
absolutely.
is. Yeah,
would not be here without him.
Yeah.
Would not be here without him. So, So then it was like, well, let's finish this. We did the first issue. Let's keep going. So we ran a couple of smaller campaigns just to get some money in the coffers. Just some low goal, low expense kind of projects that we knew would get some money in the bank so that we could start an artist to get going on issue 2. Found Fabio Ramacci, who is fantastic. The first issue was drawn by Dominique Domo Stanton, who's done some stuff for DC and Marvel. But he was no longer available. So Fabio came on, and he's been with the book since issue 2. He redrew issue 1 for the Scout Comics edition. But yeah, we kickstarted 4 issues of that. I think we finished up maybe 2019, 2018. I don't remember. Again, like, time has no meaning anymore, so I don't have a clue. But yeah, it's been a few years, and Scout Comics was kind enough to pick it up and put it in shops.
That's interesting to me. We have other questions, and I will get to you guys, I promise. But just while we're talking about this, he went back and redrew issue 1. So when he does that, is he looking at the original layouts and trying to kind of do them in his style, or is he going all the way back to the script and going, "Oh, I think that's so cool"?
All the way back
to the script. We got to see a really completely reimagined book.
Totally
from his
different
viewpoint. I love
totally
that.
different. And yeah, in fact, so I rewrote the script a bit just to kind of like freshen it up, update it for the times. Like just punch up some of the jokes, maybe freshen them up. And yeah, he did not want to look at what Domo had done at all. He just totally wanted to do his own thing and make it his book.
I think that's smart.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's smart from an artistic standpoint. It's probably not smart from a workflow standpoint. Like the project manager in me is like, dude, you got like 24 pages of layouts already. Like, just,
what are you doing?
Just go for it. Just draw. But yeah, he wanted some artistic purity. So good for him.
Tony's here and he says, I'm packing and labeling for shipping my first Kickstarter after taking Tyler's comics launch course.
Awesome. Yeah.
Congrats. Right now we're watching. Yeah, absolutely. Congrats, man. Well, and I don't know. Tell us about your book. Feel free to show it off. If any of you guys out there have campaigns that are going on or anything you want to show off, do a mic drop and show us your books by all means. We love to share that stuff. But congratulations, obviously, on making your first Kickstarter happen. That's huge. And actually, I don't know if you remember this, Clay, but you were a part of my first Kickstarter.
Was I now?
You were. When I did my first
Kickstarter.
My first Kickstarter was for a book called Welcome to the Void.
Okay.
And in I was asking around for some books to share as digital books, and
Yeah.
you gave me the first Deadskins.
Check it out. Happy to be a part, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big help. So being able to
We
show
go
off
way
your book,
back.
I feel like, yeah, totally. Well, and so it's so funny because even like back then, I didn't know you that well, and then suddenly you like come back, and I was looking over our chat history, and I saw that, and I was like, holy shit, we actually have a history, and I like completely, I
Nice.
basically like re-met you, and I'm like, oh, I know his name, I've seen his books around, so it was kind of cool to realize, oh, we have a history without remembering it. You're like the Brian K. Vaughan from way back when for me.
Well, yeah, knock
I'll
on
work
wood,
up to
fingers
it. Yeah,
crossed,
right.
we'll get there one day. Well, we'll
Yeah,
see.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and Shawnee is really glad that you didn't give up on Kickstarter. I think we all
Thank
are.
you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yes, I'm glad that you're with us. You're a frequent friar. I love it.
Yeah, did you just do that now, or is that a thing?
No,
That's good.
it's a thing.
That's
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah.
really good. I like that. You're a keeper. That's good.
Thank you.
Brian says early on in the comic making realm, being surrounded by some bigger names, were there any pieces of advice that stuck with you and helped elevate your craft?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I learned a lot from Brian. I didn't so just like a little addendum to that story. Like I didn't know him well in that class, but I remember I came home. I was living with two girls at the time, and I came home and started talking to my roommate Ruth about this nerd in this class who just like all the editors love him and they're falling all over themselves and I totally ripping on this guy. And about a week later, she brings him home on a date. And now they're married with two kids.
No way!
So, so I did get to know Brian very well. And so I got to be like, I was there when he was just breaking in. So I got to see like a lot of what he was going through. And that was extraordinarily helpful. I was a big Swamp Thing fan. So when he got that Swamp Thing gig, he and I would talk a lot about Swamp Thing. In fact, I'm killed in an issue of a Swamp Thing run, or maybe I think I'm anally raped. Actually, I'm a lead singer of a band. Look it up. I don't know what issue. It's like 7 or 9 or something like that. But yeah, so where was I? I lost the plot there for a second. But
you lost me at anally raped. Like,
sorry. Well, it's Brian's fault. I didn't do it. Brian.
No, yeah, that's true. That's true. You were the victim.
I was the victim. I'm the victim in this story. Okay, so back off. But I learned a lot from what he went through, and like watching his pitching that, and even him trying to pitch Y the Last Man and everything he went through with that and all of his struggles, and like there was a period of time where everybody like thinks of him as like super successful now, and obviously he is, but there was a period of time where he was the guy who tanked Swamp Thing. And that's his words, not mine, but that's what he would say. He was like, I'm the guy that tanked Swamp Thing, and he couldn't get an editor to return his emails for a long time. And so he went out, but what I appreciated and what I took from that is that he didn't let that stop him from making comics. So he went out and made a photo comic. So I was one of his models from this photo comic that he did. And I can't remember what the script was. And I don't think he wound up making the whole thing. I think it was called Do-Gooder. But he would take these photos of me and some other actors and then, make word balloons, telling the story. And he just kept making comics and kept making short comics until eventually he was able to get back in and he pitched Y the Last Man and he sold that to one place and then it failed. That company went under, and then so he had to retool it and took it to Vertigo. So like I kind of got a front row seat at like watching everything that he went through, and the best piece of advice that he gave me was advice that Neil Gaiman gave him. And I think Neil Gaiman told him that Alan Moore told him, which is just get published as fast as you can. And I think what he meant by that is like get in front of an audience, because they will rip you to shreds. tell you where your deficiencies are. You will grow so much faster having your stuff in front of an audience. And so what I love about the Kickstarter experience is that, well, now you don't have to wait for a publisher to take that chance on you. You can put your book out in front of people, see who bites, and then you can see, all right, where do I need work? What do I need to improve on to connect with an audience? And that's always stuck with me. So I think that just sort of like do it yourself spirit and getting it out there and getting audience feedback has really stuck with me.
Well, and what's great is I find, especially like watching Kickstarter, I love to watch Kickstarters. I know it sounds really nerdy, but I love to kind of see the numbers and what are they doing, what's working, what's not.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if people don't come on and say your book sucks or it's amazing or whatever, your numbers will give you that information. I see,
Right.
like, I'm watching someone and I'm like, okay, so issue 1 did, $5,000 and 160 Kickstarter or 100 backers, whatever.
Right.
And then suddenly you look at the second one, you're like, ooh, so that one's 3,500 and you drop down to 75 backers. They may not have said they didn't like it, but they said they didn't like it. Like,
Right.
something happened,
Sales don't lie. Sales don't lie.
So, and especially with something like Kickstarter, where it's so easy to access the people who bought it before. So if they're
Right.
not coming back, something's up,
Right.
And
And that's
I mean,
that's why we appreciate the Shawnees of the world.
Yes. They're
Very
the
grateful.
best. And actually, we also appreciate the Terrys who say, that's very cool. What's the name? She want to know the name of your books that you were selling.
Yeah. So Nightmare Theater is the horror anthology. We just wrapped up Nightmare Theater 2, which is the sequel, because sequels are awesome. And so there's also Blazing Blade of Frankenstein #1 just wrapped up last week on Kickstarter, which is kind of like it's a sequel to the novel, but it's like a sword and sorcery meets gothic horror mashup. And then with Fried Comics, it's Deadskins, PBOW, and Red Xmas, which is now coming out from Scout Comics.
And Red Xmas, is that coming out in issues or is that just coming out straight as a graphic novel?
So the way they decided to do it, they call it their they've changed the name a couple of times.
Is it like seasons or whatever?
Yeah, it's not quite that. It's like first it was like the binge edition, but now they're calling it something else, and the name is escaping me, and forgive me. But the idea is that they release the first issue so that collectors can say that they have a first issue, and then they'll go straight to the trade. Like a few months after. I think the reality, just to sort of like peel back the curtain here, is I think with a lot of companies like Scout, like if you're DC, Marvel, and Image, it really is the same, that like everybody orders the first issue and then sales drop off after that, right? We all know like the expected slide or whatever as more issues come out. But if you're a smaller company like Scout or some of these other companies, the reality is like they might order a lot of your issue 1, but they may not order a lot of issue 2 or issue 3 or any of issue 4 or 5. You know what I mean? So I think Scout was trying they are trying a new model where like they'll release the first issue and then they'll just go straight to the trade. And so this is part of that initiative, and we're going to see how it does.
Yeah.
So the first issue came out at Christmas last year, and then the trade is coming out this Christmas.
Okay, cool. So they'll, as of this Christmas, you guys can go to your local comic shop, ask for Scout Comics, and get Red Xmas, and you can get the whole trade.
You can get the whole trade. Yep. Absolutely.
Speaking of Scout Comics, I just peeled down. I'm like, oh, look at this guy. So you're saying that without you, Brian would not have a career?
I mean, that's basically what I'm saying, Charlie. Like I don't want to take credit, but if you want to give it to me, like I'll take it, I guess.
Thank you for coming aboard, Charlie Stickney. For those of you guys who don't know, one of the co-publishers of Scout Comics, as we're sitting here talking about their new initiatives and everything. We totally weren't doing a commercial for you, by the way. This was just happenstance. That's hilarious that he showed up. Yeah, 6 degrees of, yeah, exactly, right. There's so many. This person knows that person. It's hilarious. Actually, recently, I was on. We drove from Texas to Seattle for the show and then back again, and I noticed that an old friend of mine um, had responded to the guy that I was driving with had responded to one of his posts, and I said, "Oh, so Christopher Cordell, you know him?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, he's a really great guy. He's this stunt man." He like gave me the whole guy's spiel. And I was like, "I've been friends with Christopher for 25 years. Like I've known him since I was in high school." He's like,
It's a small
"Oh," I'm like,
world.
"I introduced you to him. He was on my show." And he's like, "Oh, that's right." I was like, "Yeah, homie, yeah." So it was so funny that he went through his whole. He was so excited to know this guy, and he went through. I was like, "Yeah, no, I know him. We're good.
No, I know that guy. Yeah, yeah. It's a
I
small
know
world
his
after all.
family." Right? Oh, it's so weird. Yeah, it really is. Um, I have found so many cool projects and awesome people through Kickstarter. Couldn't
Yeah,
agree more.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's it's
See.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
Kickstarter is awesome, and it's such a great community. I think your dog wants in on the action. Yeah. Uh, I'll vamp. I'll vamp for a little bit. Yeah. Kickstarter is an awesome community, and I mean, that's how I got to know Charlie, and so many other fantastic creators that I try to learn from, and yeah.
you're doing
How's your
great. You're
dog?
doing wonderful.
Am I doing great?
He's
Am I
good. He's no, you're doing wonderful. My wife just got home and he's like, "Mom," and I'm like, "Yeah,
very
I
excited?
know. I saw
Yeah,
the lights. Don't worry, dude." See, Chuck, tell me what to back. I'll back all, dude. There's so much great stuff happening. Like a really, I mean, even in December, we're this close to Christmas. No one gives a shit. There's still so much amazing
so much
stuff
great stuff.
happening. Yeah.
Charlie has a book out right now. Check it out.
Is that his sexy white ash book, or is this something different?
No, this is a brand new. This is a brand new
Oh,
thing.
okay.
How I slept my way through college. I think it's a lot. It's a Fiona Apple-esque title. So Charlie,
Oh,
forgive
that's
me
fun.
if I'm not
Yeah,
pulling the whole thing right now. But
like I keep seeing it as HWI blah blah blah. Like all these, I'm
yes,
like, okay, all right. It's so funny because I feel like that is something that Tyler would tell us. Don't do that. It will, it's going to be really hard for people to, and yet once you've
well,
got
when
an
you're Charlie
audience,
Stickney, you can
yeah,
do whatever you
right.
want. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it was like I was reviewing. Jonathan Hickman had a book recently, and literally for the first like 8 pages of this book, it was a bunch of like this stuff happened far away on this planet, and like there's no speaking, so you
Yeah.
just see all this stuff that happens far away, and then how it leads to where we are on this planet, and then we go from there, and none of that is touched. And when I was reviewing it and I was talking about it, I said, look, me as a regular writer and most regular writers, we can't do that. It's a fun thing to be able to do, but we can't grab our audience. Literally, if I wrote 8 pages of nothing that doesn't immediately connect to the story for however many issues, they'd be like, yeah, bye.
But
And
see,
you just
but that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, because it's sales don't lie, right? Like if
yeah.
you have the sales, you really can do whatever you want. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Stephen King can do whatever he wants at this point,
And people know what they're going to get out of Hickman, so
right.
good. Like they know that it will come back, and they can be invested. But the problem with someone like myself, where it's just like, yeah, they don't know me well enough, I can't do that yet. And I think
Right.
that's just understanding where I'm at, and I have no
Right.
issue with that. I can't do that right now, and that was definitely wasn't like an attack on Hickman. It was just like, that's something that's cool and fun, but your regular writer doesn't get to do that
Yeah, can't get away
and
with that.
make an issue too. Yeah.
Sure.
You're damn right. You can drop the link to Charlie's project. In fact, Shawnee, you
Please
can drop the
do.
link to any project by all means. This is a Kickstarter love zone. So go to town. All of Clay's books are fantastic.
Oh shucks, Charlie.
Right?
You're such a sweet talker.
So why aren't more of them Scout comics? I'm just saying, Charlie.
Well, we'll see. Give it time. Give it time.
Right?
It's early. It's early
He-
days.
he's testing this one.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Right? Can I search Kickstarter by Charlie's name? Yeah, Charlie Stickney. Yeah, you should be able
If you
to.
can. Yeah.
Yeah.
But drop that
and
link,
they-
Shawnee.
But yeah, there's the link
is.
right there. What is it?
How I Slept My Way Through College and Other Tales from Freshman Year.
That's funny. What a great title, dude. I love that. We've suddenly gotten to this point where we love these big "something is killing the children" titles. Like let's just fill that cover with letters. Who
But you
needs
know what?
art anymore?
You know what though? Like I'm glad we've moved beyond like the one word titles or like the one word character name titles, you know. Like
Yeah.
I love the Jack Reacher books, but Reacher as the name of a movie or Jack Reacher, like it's not very inspiring. So I like these creative titles.
But Jack Reacher and the Temple of Doom, I would buy that.
I would buy that. I'd be there. Yes, please. Bring it.
She decided to take the chance. You did good. Yeah, no one's gonna have an issue at all. Sales, yeah, dude, sales is king. Like, let's be honest. It tells you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and you
Yep.
get to go from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Two I like that are live. Oh, Mr. Dig. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good pick, dude. That's from Sync,
Yeah. Yep.
dude, which is such a dark, amazing book. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
then
John Lees is fantastic, and
Right?
Alex Cormack, who draws that book, so good.
I don't know them, but I read the first graphic novel
Yeah.
of Sync, and I fell in love. I was like, oh, you guys are demented in all the right ways. I love this.
Yes.
And then here's another favorite from Shawnee. Crossover
yeah.
Division. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Absolutely, Will.
Yeah, that's Will Allred, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And
He's
you were
an-
just on a show with him and Kevin Joseph recently.
I was, yes. Yeah, so Will actually is a contributor to Nightmare Theater 2. He's in the sequel. Charlie's in the first one.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's a small world after all, as we
Right?
say. Yeah. They should really do something with that phrase. Maybe like make a ride out of it. Song? I don't
I
know.
think they should.
I'm gonna think
I'm
about
with you on
this.
that.
I'm gonna think about
Right?
this. Yeah.
Just let it sit around in the old noodle and
It's percolating. Yeah, it's percolating. Yeah.
this one just dropped today. Captain Biggles, The Color of Always, a queer love comic anthology. Oh, cool. Okay. Check that one out.
Nice.
Yes, Will is great. I totally agree. I got to do that show one day too, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, those guys enjoy themselves, I think. Kevin
They do.
especially. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Kevin, I got on with him early on with Tart. I got to check out his stuff. And then we did, him and I met and we did Houston's Comic Palooza together. And we just
cool.
bonded and had such a good time. That guy is so awesome. Got to share a room with him and we had so much fun. It was really great.
He's a good dude. Yeah.
Yeah, he
he's
is.
a good dude. And oddly enough, like his wife went to the same, like we were at the same acting school together at the same time in New York. We didn't know each other, but yeah, oddly enough, we all moved in the same circles apparently.
The shit that went on at your school, man.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Everybody.
Crazy. Well, it's a melting pot. Yeah.
I feel I feel left out for not having gone there. Budget to create a basic pledge, but don't think you can go wrong with any. Oh yeah, right. I feel you there. Cool. I'll have to put the kids to bed. You have a fantastic show. Much love to you both. Thank you, man.
Yeah. Good night, Charlie.
Much love
Thanks
to you.
for stopping
Yeah.
by.
Charlie, I got my white ash graphic novel, and I'm so excited to get into that. So you'll be
good.
hearing from me soon. Don't worry.
He's got a
but
bright
yeah, man.
future, that kid.
Oh, I see some big things. I see some good
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Absolutely. You'll be able to keep making comics, buddy. No doubt.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, we're getting close to the hour. Was there any other stuff that you wanted to be able to talk about as far as what you make, how you make it, that kind of, like you talked about lettering earlier.
Mhm.
Do you letter just for yourself, or do you letter other people's stuff too?
I've started lettering for other people too, just because I like making comics. I like helping people make comics. I just like comics. So I started out. Hey, thanks, Joe.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I started out just lettering for myself. I wanted to learn how to do it because while I Charles Pritchett, who lettered a lot of the earlier Fried Comic stuff, is fantastic. In fact, he's now like head of design for Aftershock.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's great. He's fantastic. But you know, when you're a writer, like you always want to like tweak and try things. And I thought, well, what if I just had like a little more organic way of writing? Because I would be doing these lettering drafts, and I would think it would just be so much easier if I could go through and like actually get on the art and see how I could fit this stuff in. So I took the Comics Experience lettering class, which was taught at the time by Dave Sharp, and I loved it. I just found that I really enjoyed it. I was good ish, not great. I had a lot of things I needed to work on, but I kept going at it, and yeah, I at some point I just started lettering for other people too. And yeah, I get a real kick out of it. There's something just super satisfying about taking somebody's words and putting them on a page and finding out how they flow the best way and making it all look good. I dig it.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. So I've never lettered a lot of the. I'm not great with necessarily the software,
Uh-huh.
but I took a lettering course so I could edit lettering,
Ah,
and so I
cool.
could understand it. And I felt like I feel like everyone, if you're in comics on every level, inker, artist, I don't give a shit. You should
Yeah.
all take a lettering course
Oh, for sure.
because it. I mean, understanding where the space is going to be and how much space and I mean, I can't tell you how often I'm editing someone's book and I'm like, way too much dialogue there, dude. There's no
Right.
way. And you keep having to remind people, you paid for art. Why the fuck are you covering it up with your shitty font? Like,
Absolutely.
for real. Like, let's get in there, give them just exactly the bare minimum of what they need, and then get out. The art is doing the heavy lifting. Why are you getting in the way?
Bad lettering will kill a comic like bad sound will kill a movie. And I find that with Kickstarters now, I pretty much look for three things when I go to back a Kickstarter, and I'm thinking about, you know, all right, well, do I want to give my hard-earned dollars to this project? I'm looking for three things. Do they does the writer know how to put together words? Right, because if like the pitch is not good, or like it's like word salad on the page, then I'm kind of like, how is this person going to be able to put together a good comic? Does the art look good, you know? And then is the lettering good?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like if I'll go and I'll see two of those things, like, oh, so the writer knows how to write, they can put together a sentence, the art looks incredible, but there's bad lettering or there's no lettering, then I usually I won't take a chance on something that doesn't have the lettering on it, because I don't know that it's going to be lettered well.
Yeah.
And that can really kill the experience.
I feel you. I've heard people say, I don't like to show lettered pages because I don't want to give away spoilers. And I'm like, man, you've got 20, like at least a 24-page book. You can show off 3 or 4 pages. Shut the fuck up. Like, I don't buy that shit.
And it's first of all, it's not a spoiler, because by the time somebody gets the book, they will have forgotten everything they saw in the preview.
Yep.
But beyond that, I think that a lot of young writers and young creators get so worried about spoilers and not spoiling anything that they forget to sell the book. Like, you've got to sell the book. You've got to show things. Like we all, you know, we've all seen those movie trailers that, like, you go see the movie and you're like, oh, they put all the best stuff in the trailer. But, you know, the trailer did its job, right?
Yeah.
It got you to the theater, right? It was a great trailer. And I think you really have to start thinking about your Kickstarter preview like that. Like, forget about spoilers and just put it out there.
It's funny. I've done a bunch of conventions this year, and we just brought out our first novel, and we were basically just honestly, I realized halfway through this last convention that I was just throwing it away. I
Mhm.
would not give a very good my pitch for it was very shitty, and it was really just, hey, the pitch is on the back, like I literally said this is my time travel family drama novel, and if they enjoyed that, they might pick up the novel and look on the back, but that tells you nothing.
Right.
Like it's so vague and nothing. And then my thought was like, oh, the back will sell it. Well, they have to want to pick it up, and I gave them no reason to pick it up.
Right.
And halfway through Saturday, I was like, yeah, man, I'm being a lazy bitch. Like, I just need to give this the pitch it deserves. I want to sell this book. I love this book. Why am I not showing it any love? So, me and my partner, we sat down, and he had read the book. So, we broke out this pitch and made it happen. And so I started pitching that book, and that book started selling.
Funny how that works, right? You start
Right?
selling the book and people
You,
buy it.
you just have to give a shit. And yeah, I was just it was pure laziness. And those pitches, guys, they matter so much.
They really do. They really do. Yeah. And as somebody who like does a lot of cross promotion, like in the dead zone, right? I'll shout out somebody else's book. I always appreciate it when the other creator has a well-crafted pitch right at the top of the page, because, I just want to be able to copy and paste that, because like I'm trying to, put out these updates, and like if I've got to try to figure out how to pitch your book, it's like this is now going to take forever for me to write this update. So yeah, for sure, put in the work, make it easier for other people to sell your book, not just yourself.
Absolutely. White Ash, yes, you do need that novel. Check it out, hon. And yeah,
great.
of course, Joe, good seeing you. Tony Cade, he's got a great Kickstarter for us to check out. Sorghum and Spear, The Way of Silk and Stone. So yeah, that's another one that he's talking about. The art of designing and selecting appropriate fonts for lettering is fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that. Yeah, what else we have? Has your approach to paneling changed at all as a result from learning lettering?
Not really the paneling so much, but definitely I've gotten a better sense of how much dialogue I can fit in a panel, what's going to work and what's not going to work. So I mean, I guess in a way, like if I know that I need a lot of, like I'm now trying to think in terms of constructing the page with like at least kind of like one big main focal panel. And so like I'm trying to think about the page in terms of building around that. And so I'll, not that I'm great at the visual thinking, and usually of course I turn it in and the artist has completely different ideas about what should be on the page, and that's fine because this is a collaboration. But I definitely start thinking in terms of like, okay, well then I've got a big panel here, so I've got some more room for some dialogue here. This is going to be a smaller panel, so let's try to be a little more economical here. So I mean, in the sense that it's all connected, yes, but not necessarily, like it doesn't necessarily change my visuals.
That makes sense. And yeah, Brian goes on to say, showing off lettering can be really exciting for the backer to see, especially if it's flashy and or creative. It just, what? I think there's also just something very helpful as far as cool. They have finished pages. Like that really settles you to, okay, they're serious about this. I feel like, and I've said this before, and some people don't like hearing it, but frankly, this is how I feel, and I'm sure other people feel that way. But if lettering is not something that takes that long. Like lettering,
right.
3 or 4 pages is something that you should very easily have done for your Kickstarter if you have finished art and colored pages and whatnot. So in my mind, if you don't also have some lettering to show that off, then you just didn't give a shit. Like, I mean, like you weren't willing to put in the whole work to make me feel better about the fact that you're going to finish this.
And even good lettering is like the least expensive part of this whole process. So it seems to me like such a strange thing for people to cut corners on. Yeah. Like I'm going to cut corners on the fastest and least expensive thing that there is to do. It just doesn't make sense.
And I even get like so many people are like, well, I don't want to hire an editor. I'll do it myself. And I'm like, well, I don't love that, especially as being an editor. But I kind of get where you're at as much as I don't agree. And then they're like, and I'm gonna letter it myself. And I'm like, oh, don't do that. Unless
Yeah.
you act like, have you lettered before? No, but it looks easy. It's not. Just
It's
stop.
not.
Just
It's not. Yeah,
get somebody else to do it for you and watch what they do, man. Like,
and look, I mean, I was that guy who wanted to letter it myself, but
Yeah.
I did put in the work to learn, and
you took the course.
I took the course, and I got like this and a bunch of other books that I'm always referencing. So I am putting in the work, but but you know what? You should hire an editor too. Like even Stephen King needs an editor, so
yeah,
hire an editor.
I'm trying to look through and see what. If you don't need a good editor, get Chuck. I'll take that. I'll own it. If I get work out of it, I don't give a fuck. Thanks, Steph.
So recommendation is a recommendation, right, Chuck?
Right? Yeah. I'll just fine. If it works, it works. My people seem to be coming back. That's good enough for me. Besides paying other people to do extra work, for me seems pretty nice. I mean, especially when they're good at it, right? Like that's huge. Like that's your thing. That's what you're great at. Cool. Go do that. Here, all right, babe, I'm gonna move, let my wife by because she's all in her PJs ready to be done. Don't want to show off the good stuff. Yeah, you guys didn't pay that OnlyFans, so you don't get to see that. But yeah, okay, so I mean we're winding down towards the end of the show. Clay, why don't you, I mean, dude, you've got to tell us so much stuff already. Like you've been absolutely amazing. Can you one more time tell everyone where they can find you and where they can get your stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at Clay's Evil Twin. If you're interested in Blazing Blade of Frankenstein #1, the Kickstarter just wrapped up, but we opened up our second chance store on In Demand, which is through Indiegogo. So you can look it up there, Blazing Blade of Frankenstein #1, and same with Nightmare Theater Volume 2. You can go to the In Demand store there, Nightmare Theater Volume 2 or Nightmare Theater 2. I don't think you need the volume. And Red Xmas coming out from Scout Comics any day now, guys. So ask about it at your shops or search for it at scoutcomics.com.
Dude, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Look at this. Next time, get a better show booking.
Thank you, Steph. I will work on it.
Right?
Yes. And you and I will chat. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, get a better show. But meanwhile, I might have gotten you work. So fuck you, Steph. You guys all pick up this free and share it out. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. An editor polishes and refines, he or she directs the. Thank you, man. Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. So yeah, thank you so much for showing out. I really appreciate it, guys. Next week we've got a terrible guest. You don't want to show up for this. In fact, the guest is me. My good buddy Ben Cook is going to take over the show, and he's going to interview me. And I have no idea. I'm glad you love the Chuck Show because next week it's going way off the rails, guys. So it's end of the year. We're going to have some fun. I have no idea what Ben has planned. I spoke to him today, and he just said, man, I got some ideas. We'll see. And the dude's been my friend for 20 years. We'll just see what happens. So I hope to see all you guys next week here. Thank you so much. And hey, holidays are coming up. Pick up a cool book like Red Xmas. Keep supporting comics. Give them as gifts, guys. Come on, let's enjoy this stuff and show it off. Steph is so watching that. Yeah. Enjoy that train wreck, my friend. You're gonna have a good time. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Clay, for coming out. I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Guys, yeah, much love to you as well. Great show and happy holidays. Absolutely, hon. Much love to all you guys. It's going to be great. Peace, love, and comics, guys. My name is Chuck, and I give a fuck. Thank you so much.